Today on Flurry Friday, we're talking about a topic that is actually near and dear to our heart, which is whether or not Christian and family friendly are the same thing, especially in the space of games. It's real simple, Jay. So Nino Lucarelli asks, I'm a songwriter and producer from Arizona, go Zonies. I've always wanted to get into composing and scoring for video games, but I haven't had much luck figuring out how to get involved with the game design post-production community. Do you have any advice? And how do you normally find music for your work? Hey, I got some great music. Come check this out.
What about that one?
Huh?
Hello from the outside. At least I can say
I have the perfect one!
Let it go, can't hold it back any.
So I'm not sure if we're the right answer, but for an indie studio, the most likely choice you have to get into the industry is if you know somebody. It's not really about the resumes nearly so much as about the connections, which may not be a great path forward for you, but on the other hand, the AAA studios are a lot more formal. And so you're likely to do typical resume, job description stuff. And the bottom line, though, in either case, is that you got to have a portfolio of work. And sometimes the only way to get a portfolio is to give it away for free. And on principle, that's a big drag, but it's the reality of the situation. So if you can find places where you can create work, get it out there, especially if you can get it published in a game, even if it's just a buddy's game, then you're in good work. So that's the answer, although I don't know if it's the one you were looking for.
I mean, that's good, though. It's like start someplace.
Yeah, exactly.
Another point is go to the game conferences. Go to PAX, go to GDC, where we just came from. That's where all the professional game developers go, both the big games
Right.
and the small studios. So, yeah.
A good place.
Yeah. And stay in touch, because thanks for asking the question.
This is Soma Games. I'm Chris Skaggs.
John Berquist.
And we're going to be talking about some things that we care about here on Flurry Friday. Once you've done the marketing stuff and you've gone, rah, 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 here's our stuff, there's other things that we really would love to talk about, stuff that's actually kind of more important to us, more deep. And today, we thought we'd take an opportunity to give a quick conversation on something that showed up in Relevant magazine. Relevant, if you don't know it, is actually a magazine for basically millennial-aged Christians, more or less. The topic in this article was, the gentleman was saying that we should stop making family-friendly and Christian as if they're the same thing, right? Stop conflating these ideas. And at the heart of his conversation was family-friendly is a basically useless term, but has been connected as a sort of a shorthand for Christian, even though it's a really crappy shorthand.
Yeah.
So in our case, one of the things that comes really close to home is that in video games, in the Christian community, in case you don't know this, there's this whole like bubble mentality that can happen where it's like, we're going to try to protect our kids from everything that might be offensive or violent or bad language or whatever else. And while I understand the concept, it has really shortened the possibility of games developed by Christian developers who might have something a little more grown up to say. So if that's the setup, just tell me what that article said to you. What was the first thing you kind of thought?
Well, the first thing I thought was there's this. I guess there's two sides to it. So as a Christian, as a dad, husband, there's all this content out there for. I'm thinking movies right now. They're trying to shock value everything.
Yeah.
Like Game of Thrones and all these shows are trying to throw content at us to get us shocked and freaked out and talk about it. And it's kind of like everybody's watching these things, and I don't want to watch it. But then there's this piece of like when we go to Christian games, everything's outlawed.
Right.
Or Christian movies or Christian books or whatever thing. And the scriptures aren't that way. And so, I mean, my kids and I are talking about this. Like the Old Testament's R-rated, some of it's even X-rated.
Yeah, it's rough.
So
Yeah,
it's a bit of an odd thing for me. So when I think, just totally raw off the cuff, when I think of family friendly, I guess my skin crawls because
Yeah.
And I'm stuck in this middle place because I like good art. I like good stories, and sometimes those have some pretty hard content in them. You don't have to show everything. One thing my wife and I like is detective shows, but you can infer a serial killer's motives or
Right.
his actions without showing every gory detail.
In the culture, I think of the church, it's not okay to play games.
Yeah.
Or there's this like, well, the obligatory answer is something that is whatever. It's family friendly. It's VeggieTales, and nothing against those things. But if that's it, then it implies that games are only for kids,
Right.
and they're only for to be educational, and it's nonsense, and no one really believes it. And so at best, you have grandma who buys a video game for the grandkid that she thinks plays games too much, but he never plays it, right? And so even if grandma buys it, it just sits on the shelf. And often that has been an excuse for crappy work,
Yeah.
right? Because who cares?
Right. I'm going to cut you short.
Do
'cause,
it.
This is a cool topic, and that's why we're doing an hour podcast.
All right, okay, got it.
And we're going to invite David McDonald to join us. He's a good
Right.
friend of ours, and he was at a conference we helped put on, the Christian Game Developers Conference about 5 years ago.
2011, yeah.
Yeah, and we invited him to be on the podcast. He's a great guy. He dives into a lot of these topics. He's a pastor in Grand Rapids,
Yeah.
and he does a lot of innovative ideas, technology, ways to reach his congregation as well as others. So we invited him to join us. That's going to be on May 5th is when we're going to shoot it. Not sure when we'll publish it, but that'll be out there.
Yeah.
We'd love to see some comments. Comment here on Flurry Friday, comment on Snapchat, all those different channels, and let us know what you think of this subject.
Okay.